this place where Alyssa rests?
The problem at MSD is that...
We're here to talk about gun violence, right?
Right. I would say that you should direct your anger at the local, state, and federal law enforcement.
It's possible if you have the conversation to find the common ground.
My daughter, Jamie, was shot with an AR-15 at school.
I think the Parkland students are absolutely magnificent. They are getting voters out, younger voters, on a single issue.
What do we want? Gun control! When do we want it? Now!
We'll make gun control stricter,
Because it's a God-given right. It is a natural-born right in the constitutional republic.
But someone who is taking medication for a mental illness should not be allowed to buy a firearm.
There's kids out here that have lost somebody that they were close with due to gun violence, due to a gun like that. And you're out here in full force with it. Listen, it's your right. I get that. But to have the whole thing out on display, I think that might just be a little excessive. That's all.
I have that right as an American, and I have a right as a Virginian as well, because I'm allowed to open carry in this state.
You know, I'm a strong Second Amendment supporter. You know, based on where I'm from here in the 5th District, the Second Amendment is important now because we've had some very bad and awful emotional events that happen around the United States. But I believe that when these emotional and awful things happen, I think that reasonable discussion sort of goes out the window.
The 5th District, it's as close as you can get to Montana and still be within 60 miles of the nation's capital. It stretches from North Carolina to west of Dulles International Airport in Washington, D.C. This district, being as rural as it is, people have guns. There's no doubt about it. The people locally in this district want to keep with tradition. They do like their guns.
Okay, this is a 22. I use this basically for practice when I'm down here. This is a Glock 42, which I carry. I think that the NRA is a good organization. I have to go through 8 hours of training with them before I'm allowed to have my concealed carry. And without an organization such as the NRA that does these things, I think we'd be in a lot worse shape.
The NRA has a big impact politically. They make a lot of legislators scared because of their ability to mobilize their voters, and they have an outsized impact because they are concentrated in certain parts of each state that ultimately can swing an election in favor of their particular candidate.
Gun control is a big issue nationally. It's come up here in the 5th District of Virginia during the debates. We hosted one here in Little Washington, Virginia.
What's missing under current law that you want to work for?
I don't think right now, as far as the Second Amendment is concerned, there's anything missing under current law.
You're satisfied
I'm
with
satisfied.
the federal thing?
Yes, I am.
Now, there has been a presence in Washington, particularly since the murders in Parkland, Florida, earlier this year, of people who are not satisfied with federal law. I was just curious how you resolved it.
Well, this issue has changed dramatically this year. There are a lot of angry mothers out there, and they see their children having to go to school every day in fear. But I do see a demand from Democratic women that we must address these issues. And also being with the Parkland kids, you really feel the power of this whole new generation to lead us into better gun legislation.
Hi, Leslie. How are you? Hi. Very nice to see you.
I grew up in a hunting family. So my parents were hunters and I was trained in gun safety. I hunted as a teenager. We hunt on our farm. That's a very different thing from having an assault weapon. It's a very different thing from having a weapon of war.
An AR-15 is sort of like putting a dress on me, right? It's just gussying up something to look like an assault weapon, and it really isn't. It wasn't the AR-15, or it's not assault weapons in particular that kill people, right? It is people that kill people.
I think the reason why gun violence and gun legislation is very, very important, is the demand from constituents. I hear it all the time. I've never seen it like this in Virginia, this demand for change in gun legislation.
How in the world do you eat deer when it's full of AK-47 juice?
Nobody shoots a deer with AK-47.
Well, then
They
why
use
do they have
AR-15s. AR-15s, they shoot them.
Okay, you're right. Why do they have them?
Home defense.
Oh, you can do home defense with a 38.
If we're talking about the seizure of firearms or the mass seizure of firearms, it's unnecessary, it's unconstitutional.
We are here to call out every single politician, to force them into enacting this legislation, to addressing this legislation, to doing more than a simple Band-Aid on a broken bone.
These Parkland students didn't ask to get involved. They were forced to get involved because of a life and death matter that they saw on the grounds of their school affecting their friends, their families, their community, and ultimately our country.
If we move on, the NRA and those against us will win.
Some of the political groups, and I'm not going to say who they are, feed on this kind of thing. They feed on fear.
This is more than just
and these
one
children
day,
are right into that situation. For these kids going out, a lot of them don't know what they're there for.
When politicians say that your voice doesn't matter because the NRA owns them, we say no more.
There was a reaction that law-abiding people throughout the country who are gun owners felt like this is some kind of orchestrated attack that special interests have set forth and carried through. Everybody's interest is not to have school shootings happen. And the only question is, how do you prevent them?
That's what I'm getting at, and that's what I'm saying.
So you have two opposing worldviews here. People who look at guns as safety, security, freedom. Other people who look at guns as palpable threats and something that makes them afraid and something that could potentially threaten their lives. How you reconcile those worldviews, that's very difficult.
For a mental illness should not be allowed to buy a firearm.
We have to find a way to listen to each other and come together.